All right, it's time for the actual speaker today, Nadia. So excited, Nadia. Nadia is not only just like a ray of sunshine, but her work, it just constantly inspires me. One of my favorite things is seeing her personal portraits that she does for her birthday.
Oh yeah, I do.
And I just think it's so like next level, and your creativity is just amazing. So,
thank you. Hello. How y'all doing today? Good morning. I see some familiar faces. How you doing? Now, I don't do this often, talking in front of people, so bear with me. As you can see, today's conversation is going to be all about creative confidence, bold ideas, big impact in product photography with ClickPop Studio. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so a quick introduction. My name is Nadia. If you did not know before, now you do. I am the owner, founder, and lead creative of ClickPop Studio, and we are a colorfully loud creative agency for bold brands. We specialize in creative product photography, stop motion, flat lays, prop styling, as well as product video ads. Basically everything that you guys have seen on like my social media and possibly my website if you've taken the time to peruse that. Now that we've gotten this quick introduction out of the way, I can go ahead and focus on what you guys really want to hear me talk about, which is me, obviously. Now, to kick off my origin story, I want to tell you guys about how I discovered my passion, and coincidentally enough, it was actually in StudioPlex. I was a part of a summer program when I was 14, working with a company called Art at Work. Now, that company was funded by Fulton County, and they taught teens between the ages of 14 to 16 different mediums of art during the summer. Now, this was a 6-week program, and I did this 3 summers in a row. And during that program, I got to learn all types of mediums of art. We learned welding, upholstery, we learned how to make mosaic tables, sculpture, bookbinding, and most importantly, I learned photography. That was the first step into the world of capturing memories as well as developing them. Now, that opened my eyes to the world of art, and I just knew I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. So that was a major impact on me. Fast forward to my college days, I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, where I studied industrial design and furniture design. Now, you'd think that it would have been photography, but at that time, Instagram and social media was not a thing. I think we barely had Facebook. I'm aging myself a little bit, but that's all we really had, and photography wasn't as popular then as it is now. I didn't know any other photographers. I didn't even think about the possibility of that even being a career. So I wanted something a little bit more practical, and also something that related more to the foundational background that I gained while working at Art at Work. So industrial design and furniture design gave me that. It allowed me to sit within design, and gave me the understanding of the impact of design as well. And so transitioning from ideation to content creation was a really fluid transition. Now, I sat in that space for a very long time until I realized that it wasn't my true passion. I loved designing for companies and also building furniture out of a workshop and just being covered in sawdust head to toe, but that was not my final boss situation. Like, I did not want to stay there, mainly because I like to look good, and that dust was getting everywhere, all of my hair. I just couldn't do it. Exactly. And so I knew my journey had to make a transition. So around that time, I kind of rediscovered photography. Now, creating full-time did not happen overnight. It actually that journey began when I got my first big girl job working for a Christmas company called Elf on the Shelf. I'm not sure if any of you guys know what that is, but essentially it was Christmas every day. That company has a main elf that is all a part of the lore of Christmas, holidays, Santa Claus, like Santa's little helpers. So if you can picture it, I was surrounded by a lot of chipper, a lot of morning people, and I'm not a morning person, and so it was a lot to deal with, but we had a lot of fun. I was a part of their social media team on their photography side, and we were responsible for creating all of the content for their social media. And so that's where I learned the foundation of creating product photography. I learned prop styling, I learned set design, and also I learned how to create whimsy within the images, because within that Christmas company, we had to create a spark of magic to keep the lore alive all year round. Now, if you know anything about those elves, they're they're very floppy. They don't have opposable arms or anything like that. So we had to really rig them up, stick them with wire, pose them in really interesting ways. And that's where I began my foundational journey of learning how to bring personality into inanimate objects. And I kind of fell in love with that space. Now, I was in that space for around 3 years, and y'all know how corporate America is. I wasn't going to stay for long. And so I was slowly making my journey out of that into entrepreneurship. But I'm someone that likes to plan. And so I'm never going to be the one that kind of jumps ship and say, oh, well, I'll figure it out as I go. My brain does not work like that. So I needed a plan. And so because I had been doing product photography full time, also portrait photography on the side, I made the decision to make the switch totally to product photography. So I knew that I needed a mentor. I knew that I needed someone to teach me the business side of photography, because everyone talks about just do it, go out and reach your dreams and be an entrepreneur, but no one talks about what that looks like. What does the business look like? How do you get clients? How do you find clients? How do you talk to them? How do you get the money in? What do you do with the money? All of the things. And so I knew I needed someone that specialized in that. And during my search, I found someone named Tamara Darden. Now, she's someone that specialized in product photography. I believe she's from New York. And she was also someone that had courses. So she was willing to teach the business side. So by the time I found her, I had kind of missed the deadline to join her longer, I believe 3-month course. But she did have an accelerated course that I was able to jump into, which was actually perfect for me because of my background in industrial design, I had that contextual research knowledge. I knew how to find my brand, my target audience, get my brand values, all of the creative stuff I had down. I needed the business side. And so once she got me together, I had my business. I learned about onboarding systems. I learned about creating emails. I learned about communication in general. And so from there, my journey was beginning. Now, this was also happening around 2020 approaching. We all know what happened. 2020, the world shut down. But right before it shut down, and right before I jumped into entrepreneurship, I was able to attend my very first photography conference, and it was called Click Away. And it just so happened to be happening here in Atlanta, so I didn't have to travel for that. Now, that conference was extra special to me because it was a woman-owned, woman-led conference, and that was my first time experiencing the amount of women within the same field. Now, I've been in photography for over 10 years, and starting out in Atlanta, as you can imagine, the world of photography was very male dominated. It still is, but product photography is an even smaller pool. And so any networking event that I would go to, any event that I would attend, I'd be one of 5, maybe 10 women out of the entire group. And so it was very hard to kind of find my community and grow. And so being in that conference just kind of changed my world. I networked my ass off because I didn't think I was going to get this chance again. And so that was really cool, meeting other women, connecting with them, and also learning more about how they run their business. And I just had such a fantastic time. Now, once I got out of that and I was ready to go, 2020 happened, and then everything shut down. But I was determined to make my dream happen. And so because jobs weren't rolling in, because people were kind of restructuring their business, I decided to show up on social media on a weekly basis. Now, back then, Instagram was not changing their algorithm 50 million times a day. And so you could really be found on social media. Hashtags meant something back then. And so with every tag that I attached to the work that I was posting, people were finding me. I showed up every week posting behind the scenes content of my process. I showcased the finished work that I created. I also posted the failures and talked about how I pivoted from that to grow. And before I knew it, I started to really create a community of people to follow my journey, to follow my story, and really integrate into the journey that I was creating for myself. And within 3 months, I landed my first client. Now, I couldn't believe this because I just knew that I just knew no one was watching me. But over time, the more and more clients that I gained, they kept telling me, I've been watching you forever. I love your work. I've just been waiting to work with you. And that just amazed me because I created my own little bubble of creativity, hoping that someone would find me, not knowing that people were watching and waiting. And so once I got that first job, I did a kick-ass job at that, and I kept going. I didn't let that stop me from remaining consistent and showing up. And so that is how my journey of entrepreneurship, creating full-time, began. Once I landed that first job, did a great job, they recommended me to other businesses, and that's how I got that word of mouth marketing. And that's what you really want, especially when you're first starting out, as well as that, proactive marketing, but we'll get into that later. Now, let me tell you guys about how I found my creative confidence, and this was a journey. I literally had to figure out how to move successfully through fear. It was not easy, y'all. Okay, so how it started was, again, me continuing to show up on social media, do the damn thing, make it happen, because I just knew I was going to be making all the money. One fine day, after still showing up, getting business, still getting that marketing, one of the biggest clients that I'd ever communicated with approached me for a job. And I was just so excited. I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to be rich. It wasn't that kind of money, but it was amazing. It was the most money I had ever seen within that time. And, they had approached me. They said they'd been watching me for a long time and they were excited to work with me. Now, again, I'm someone that likes to plan well in advance. So before any major calls came in as far as jobs, I knew that I needed a lawyer. I know how to read contracts, but I'm not an expert at it. So I found an entertainment lawyer that could partner with me to help me to negotiate the contracts that I wasn't really professional at reading. Like, I wasn't really an expert at reading. So she helps me to get the best deals and also to rework things so that I can get the right licensing, I can get the right ownership of the things that I produce. I also found an accountant because taxes are real, people. and all that money that you make is not yours. And so I needed someone to tell me what to do with the money that was going to be rolling in, because I was going to be rich. Couldn't nobody tell me anything, and so because I was already set up and prepared for a big opportunity come my way, having that opportunity hit me wasn't something that made me afraid. What did instill fear in me was actually getting onto the process and getting on set. Now, this job I was contracted to be on set for 12 hours for one day. And let me tell you something, a little bit about product photography. Typically, we are the afterthought. Everybody thinks about the lifestyle photography with the models, the videography, all of that. But when it comes to still images, they think about that after the fact. So they've already planned out the entire concept and then they kind of bring you on. And because of that, they aren't really prepared for the amount of tediousness and time that it takes to get the shot done. Because sometimes it could take a full day to set something up just to get one shot within my world. And that's not something that really works out on a major campaign, because sometimes you only have one day and you got to get that done within 12 hours. Now, I made the mistake of showing up to this job by myself. I didn't have any extra help. I didn't have any assistants. None of my friends had flexible schedules, so all I had was me. And so once I got to the location on the day, the very last day, mind you, because they could only afford to have me one day, they chose to bring me on the last day. I was just scared, because if I did not get this job done, I was going to look like I couldn't do the job. They were going to regret hiring me. All these things are going through my head because it's a really big opportunity. And so once I got in there, I had to figure out the rhythm, and I'm like, okay, it's fast paced. I got it. I can do it. I'm working around the lifestyle photographer, photographing the models. I'm also working around the video team, shooting the ads in the different spaces that they have. But the problem is that every time I get set up in a space, someone taps me on my shoulder saying, hey, we have to move you. And I'm like, I haven't even taken the shot yet. They're like, you could just come back. It's fine. And I'm like, I only have today. Today is the only day I have, and so I'm just panicking because all I have is this. I feel like everyone's sabotaging me. I don't know who to complain to because I'm just me and I can't really show my fear because I'm a professional. I went through so much stress throughout that entire day and while still maintaining. And my almost 13th reason why happened when I was feeling like I was winning the day back. I was in my rhythm. I'm setting up. I take the shot and the director comes and says, oh, this looks great. And I'm like, yes. doing my happy dance. I'm like, I did something good. I'm winning the day back. And so she's just observing the scene. And then she says, but it needs something. And I'm like, okay, cool. What does it need? I can change things. I can move things around. And then she turned to me, looked me dead in my eyes and said, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And then she sauntered off, and I'm just standing there frozen like, what does that mean? What does it need? And I'm just like, I only have maybe 10 more minutes in this scene before someone pulls me off. And so I'm panicking at this point, and I have to walk away because I don't know what to do. I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna pass out. I don't know what to do. She said it needs something. I don't know what it needs. I feel like everyone's sabotaging me. I don't know how to get this day back. And my mom's like, calm down. They hired you for a reason. You'll figure it out. And I was like, will I figure it out? Because I don't think I will. I thought I had it, but I didn't. And she said, just be like water, flow around it, bounce back, find your rhythm. Like, you know how to do this job. You're just overwhelmed with the entire process. So once she calmed me down, I went back with fresh eyes and was able to reassess and remember the contingency that I planned for myself. I had extra props packed in my bag that I completely forgot about, and was able to restyle and rearrange that scene. When the director came, she loved what I did, and I won the day back. I was like, okay, cool. Are you sure there's nothing else? I'm going to the other space. I'm not coming back. And she said, okay, great. And so from that time throughout the rest of the day, I picked up the pace, I figured out the rhythm with everyone else, and I was able to work around the entire scene. And that was the most stressful time that I'd ever experienced. I had to figure out how to sit comfortably in the discomfort, to really lean into my fear and trust my quick decisions. And to this day, I still do that. There is nothing like that Thunderdome experience that I experienced on that day, and I will never forget it. That is something that helped me to win the day back, and it's something that helped me to start to build trust within my own voice and visual style. And that just changed my life for the better. And it allowed me to fully step into my creative process and dare to be audacious. And that's something that I take with me every single day. So that is how I gained my creative confidence, out of a lot of fear, a lot of pivoting, and a lot of quick problem solving. So key takeaway from this: confidence doesn't come from having it all figured out. It comes from doing the work before you feel ready. And that is very true. I thought I was completely prepared for that situation until I got into it and realized, oh, I'm not ready. And so once I decided, after having my small panic attack, decided to take the day back, there was nothing that was going to stop me, and I won the day back. So definitely keep that in mind. So let's get into some of my creative non-negotiables. Number one, just shoot the damn thing. I get so many DMs of people saying, hey, I tried product photography and it just didn't look good, so I quit. And I'm like, well, your first shot is always going to be terrible. No one starts out as an expert. My photos were trash. You do not want to see what my photos looked like when I first started out. But I was happy about those failures because I knew that there was nowhere to go but up. You have to be willing to be a beginner. You cannot skip that stage. You have to be willing to fail forward and grow from there. So keep that in mind, especially to all you perfectionists out there. I'm talking to myself as well. Number two, create for yourself. You always have to schedule personal projects once a week, maybe once a month. Once a year is crazy, so y'all figure that out, but whatever works for you. Personal projects, not only help you to sharpen your skills, but also help you to create opportunities to attract your dream clients. I have landed plenty of jobs just based off of my own personal projects, whether I was feeling bored and wanted to create something new, or I got inspired while I was working on a client project and saved that idea for later. You always want to keep pressing on the inspiration that you get sporadically, because that could turn out to be your next big thing. You never know who's watching you, and you never know what project is going to spark that interest or intrigue for someone to contact you and work with you. So definitely create for yourself. Don't just live your life working to fulfill other people's ideas and creativity. You have to leave space for yourself. Leaning into creative projects also helps you to avoid burnout. That is something that I need, because with my crazy schedule, I run the risk of always being drained. And so when I have to think for other people, I'm not thinking for myself. So you have to leave that space. Number three, you are more than one skill. You have to embrace being a jack of all trades. And think beyond the click. And what I mean by that is think about all of your creative skills and use them to your advantage. When I was first starting out, I had to learn all of the jobs. I had to be the photographer, the editor. I had to learn about creative direction, finding models, how to communicate with those models. I had to figure out how to network. I had to figure out how to prop style and set design, all of the things. Once I got to a point to where clients looked at me as an agency, I had to figure out how to put together a whole team just for a campaign. And so when I sat in all of those positions and became a master at that, I was able to utilize those skills to become more hireable. You won't always be hired for your photography skills. So if you have more skills, you can be hired on set as a creative director, as a prop stylist, as a model coordinator, someone that scouts locations. You always want to make sure that you're using all of your skill sets to the best of your ability so that you can be of help and service to your friends and they can be of help and service to you. Number 4, keep it bold and keep it clear. Lean into your unique style. Your ideas popped into your head for a reason. There's that old saying that goes, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And that is very, very true. What comes to you is for you. So you have to make it happen and make it shake because you are the only you that exists. And so your vision, your perspective is very, very important. Use those ideas to develop a clear visual identity that speaks to your audience. Oftentimes, whenever you are in the beginning stages of developing your style, sometimes that becomes the thing that you lean on, and you don't want to be a one-trick pony. You don't want to be something that someone pigeonholes into one main look. I've had to figure out how to be flexible in how I produce my style for clients, and I'll give you some examples of that. Now, y'all already know what this is, bold and colorful. This is where I sit, baby. I love to produce bold, colorful, crisp, playful images like this. I love set design. I love a pop of intrigue. I love texture. This is 100% me, but sometimes clients don't want all of me. Sometimes they want just 50, 40%. And if their brand doesn't align with the bold colorfulness of this, I can go ahead and shift that into fitting their needs. So if they're not looking for bold and colorful, I can do bright and airy. It's still my same style of styling. It's just the lighting is different. I'm using minimal props. I'm changing up the scene a little bit. I'm adding a little bit more personality into it. I'm letting the products speak and allow the products have more personality so they speak through the image. If they're looking for something a little bit darker and moodier than bright and airy, then we go on to dark and moody images. And these are my favorite type of images to produce because I feel like dark and moody really emote more emotion. They really do tell a story, and it's because of the darks and the shadows. I love shadow play, so these are my favorite style of images to shoot. I don't get to shoot it too often for clients because they tend to follow the trends. If it's bright and colorful, then they'll do bright and airy, all the things. And so if my client is not looking for dark and moody, then they also do cute and clean. Cute and clean is usually saved for beauty industry. Now, I started off in the beauty industry within product photography, so I was doing a lot of cute and clean. So my style has transformed over the years, and I can bounce back into all 4 of these different styles in order to reach different audiences. So if you're in a space of redoing your portfolio or just now building your portfolio, I definitely want you to think about how you can be flexible in the way that you shoot, in the way that you light, so that you can possibly reach a new audience that you've never really thought about working with before. And also so they can have the idea of working with you, because again, if you're only putting out one style, they may only think of you as that person that only does this. So definitely keep your mind open with that. So key takeaways of this: use the power of the pivot to your advantage. Opportunities come through the doors that you create, so create with purpose. Y'all still listening? All right. See a lot of eyeballs. Okay, so let's talk about marketing with confidence. Now, I know the word marketing is very intimidating, so today we're going to reframe that as creative visibility. How are you showing up and where? Now, in my mind, I like to categorize creative visibility in two different ways. You're either showing up passively or proactively. Now, in my mind, what passive creative visibility looks like is you posting occasional finished work on social media, maybe just for your feed. You know, you may be posting that occasional finished work in your story as well, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. You're barely showing up as the face of your business because as artists, we always want the anonymity. People always want the work to speak for itself. You know, they see my work and they'll just know. They won't know. I tried to do this in the beginning as well. You have to be the face. People want to see who's the person behind the work that you create so that they can understand who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And lastly, you're basically treating social media like a portfolio. Now, in my mind, a portfolio should be its own entity because that showcases the work that you've done and possibly give the person that's looking at it an idea of what you could possibly do for them. But they need to see more than that. Now, if you're showing up proactively, that means you're sharing your behind the scenes content and your process. You're talking about what you do to set up for a project, you know, what type of people you love to work with. You're showing your personality so people can understand what it would be like if they work with you. You know, you're interacting with your community on and off social media. You're collaborating with other creatives to produce these really cool campaign shoots that you can share in your portfolio, share on social media, as well as promote for your business. You know, you're showing up and networking and actually talking to people. Y'all got to talk to people at these events because those could be your potential clients. You never really know who's in the room. And lastly, you're introducing your business to local companies either by email or you're showing up at different markets and festivals and events all around Atlanta. Now, within Atlanta, there's a lot of events that happen all year round. And what I like to do is show up with my business card, talk to people at those booths, and really get to know them and introduce myself because I'm in product photography, so I'm gonna always have a job, baby. I will always have something to shoot because people have products, and most of the time, people only focus on getting that product and selling it. And so it's my job to introduce myself and give them the possibility of knowing where I can take them long term within the services that I provide. You have to show up even if it feels awkward. I can't guarantee that awkward feeling will ever fade away, but I can tell you that the crazy feeling that you get whenever you do feel awkward will fade. Now, if you would have told past Nadia that future Nadia would be up standing in front of people talking, I would have laughed in your face because, No. I hated public speaking. I'm always someone that likes to be behind the camera. I hate the attention. But I love photography and the business of photography so much. And I've talked about it so often to where this doesn't really faze me anymore. And this is a big deal for me because I never saw myself ever doing this. So definitely keep that in mind. You have to show up. Your work will not speak for you. Okay, so key takeaway is not about being everywhere. It's about being authentically you wherever you show up. You are the only you that exists. So again, your vision, your ideas matter. So you got to show up and make it shake. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up here is fueling your creativity long term. Creative energy needs protection as well as inspiration. And the ways that I like to stay inspired is by planning shoots that excite me. You know, I try a new technique or a new theme on a quarterly or monthly basis. You know, I also create seasonal mood boards. You know, when I'm feeling drained, like I mentioned before, I like to give myself personal projects to do. And because my schedule is so crazy, I can only really afford to do maybe one personal project a month. And I'm someone that overthinks, so I needed something that was gonna really categorize all of my ideas and keep me organized. So I developed a creative content planner so that that allows me to plan out all of my creative projects throughout the entire year. I like to plan out my personal projects as if they were campaigns. And so within that form, I like to detail everything from what theme it's going to be, what product I'm going to be shooting, the backdrop colors, if I'm going to be using models, how many, skin tone, hair texture. If I'm going to be hand modeling, I need to get some fake nails because these are not great. the wardrobe, the makeup, the hair. Like, I plan all of that out in great detail. I can even also upload images on that form that correlate to the direction that I want my entire project to go in. So when I'm ready to execute that, I have everything that I need. I've already put my team together if I need a team, and we're good to go. Now, I do creative projects for 3 reasons. Number 1, to help me to avoid burnout, and also to just amp up my energy and just keep me inspired. Number 2, I like to film the process to create teachable moments to put on my YouTube. If you guys did not know, I do have a YouTube called Click Pop Studio. That is where I put all of the videos where I talk more about the business of photography, as well as the behind the scenes stages. So you can see in detail how I style, how I photograph, how I light things. So if you're just now interested in getting into product photography, definitely check me out there. But I like to create those teachable moments so that the questions that I get all the time in those DMs have somewhere to go. And lastly, I like to create miniature galleries. And this is a key takeaway that I got from Alan Cooley, who actually spoke at a Second Saturday, I believe, last year. And he talked about his formula for email pitching. And so after the whole introduction of like, hi, I'm Alan, this is my work, click the link, hope you like me. He has a miniature gallery that he creates as like a 2 megabyte image and he sits it within the email. It's not an attachment. So whoever opens that email, they are forced to look at the work at the bottom. So even if they don't feel like clicking on the link to view the portfolio, there's already something there. And I thought that was a genius idea. And so I took that and ran with it. So not only am I feeding my need for inspiration, not only am I creating teachable moments for my YouTube, but I'm also creating galleries that I can use to push my business forward. That is the cycle of how I continue to elongate my creativity. That is how I create longevity within my business. Everything that I do has intention and purpose, and that's something that you guys need to think about whenever you are figuring out your entire process. And also leave space for the messiness and detours. Like I mentioned before, you have to be open to the power of the pivot. Your plan A is not always going to work. I told y'all about how I was struggling in that first big job. Like, I thought I had it all planned out until I was really faced with all of the challenges. So you have to be open to change, and you also have to be open to problem solving. So again, get in there, just shoot the damn thing and make it shake. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Y'all have heard me talk a lot about my journey. You've heard me talk about my origin story and how I gained the confidence to do what I do. And I'm hoping that these key takeaways allows you to continue to create with confidence in your way. And I want to leave you with 3 last key takeaways. Confidence is built through practice and not risk. You have to risk it for the biscuit. You will not be successful sitting in your comfort zone. You have to get out there and do it. Your creative vision is your most valuable asset. Again, you are the only you that exists. So your ideas and your intuition and your inspiration really does matter. Marketing is simply just sharing your passion visually and intentionally. You just have to show up, be intentional, and share more than your work, because what did we learn? Your work will not speak for itself. And lastly, don't wait to feel ready to create something bold. Your ideas are enough. You just have to start. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Oh.
I'm super curious about how you plan out your personal projects and decide what you're going to do. Like, do you feel like you just end up, by the time you sit down to plan, not put them down, or do you have moments where you need to like find inspiration and look for ideas for that?
Well, both. I would say when I was first starting out, I didn't have a ton of money, so I looked around my house to figure out, what do I have? I have this water bottle here, I have this flat iron, so let me figure out how to create a really nice campaign shoot around that. So once I figure out what product I want to shoot, I get on Pinterest and look up ideas. I type in things like creative art direction, water bottle. I type in those keywords just to see what's out there, and based on the shapes and colors that I see, I begin to gain my inspiration. I'm someone that really loves color as well as organic shapes, and so just looking at like the light bulbs back here here or the candlesticks, I'm already seeing different shapes of how I want to kind of stage props and just create space out of the negative space. So that's kind of how my mind works. I try to make it simple because I know I'm going to make it complicated in the very end. But you really just have to start with what's in front of you and just test it.
Another question here. Yeah, I was going to ask if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about your pricing process. Like with clients, do they typically come to you and know how many images they need? They obviously know how many products they have, but do you offer like packages? Is everything sort of custom? How do you approach that?
Well, it really just depends on the project. For more campaign shoots, it's based on the price for the entire day. We get into day rates when we're hiring models, you know, my creative fee, all of that. But for smaller companies, I either offer packages or I price per image because, again, people are very new to the world of product photography and they are always surprised at how expensive it is because it is an investment. Because I do a lot of set design and set styling, my images can range between $110 per image to $450 per image. And so if you need about 20-30 images, you can just figure out how you can understand how that can lead up into the thousands. And so that is a conversation that I have with my clients on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis so they can really understand how they can start to begin to plan and invest. I always tell people that I'm the icing on the cake. You need to have your brand together, your entire business together before you come to me because I'm here to help you continue the journey. You know, if you're just starting out, we can get you some nice e-com images, which is simply your product photographed and staged on a white or solid color backdrop. But when you want to get to more lifestyle, more creative campaign looking images, that is something that you need to prepare for and also something that you have a plan for after, you know, because pretty pictures won't really sell you, won't really make you the money. You have to have the plan to implement and add those pictures into it. So that is why that whole investment makes sense. And so that's a conversation that I always have to have. It's always an educational moment, especially with newer clients.
Yes, right.
So you talked a lot earlier about like your skills and being like multiple skilled like on set. And just in that answer, it sounds like you also, I'm not sure if you do, but do you have services where you provide like systems or like be a thought partner for upcoming businesses to build strategies on making those images sell further past the photo shoot? Like, is that also a service that you provide? And like, if so, like, what are some other services outside of photography that you provide to your clients that aid in their journey?
Well, I do offer branding consultant, and that could be before or after you work with me, because a lot of times when new business owners come to me, they have the name of their business, they have the products, and they have their hopes and dreams. And so because I have so many years of experience building my own brand, I know I know the formula for really getting in there, finding your target audience, and then speaking to their wants and needs. And so I'm all about storytelling and personality. So I do help them to figure out what that is and what direction to go in. And so the consultation services that I do offer is like coaching them through the beginning stages before we even work together as far as photography. I'm helping you plan and get your business together so that when we do work together, you can take that and run with it for the next 2 years until you're ready for new images to come in. And then after the fact, I can have separate meetings where we're discussing, okay, this is the audience that you've cultivated thus far. If we continue on and providing you consistent images that slowly change, that'll be the graduation into the next level for you to be featured in magazines or for you to launch a bigger campaign down the line. So that's pretty much how I work within the other services for my clients.
You mentioned that you're sort of not a public speaker, but I was hoping you could share a little bit about your experience with YouTube specifically, like kind of jumping into that, putting yourself out there, being able to communicate, and then how has your initial phases with that platform, how has that changed now? Like, how has that evolved, your approach to that space?
Well, I'm still a baby when it comes to YouTube. I literally just started last year, and so that was an experiment to help me to become more comfortable in speaking because I have been getting more opportunities to do live workshops and also speaking engagements. And so I really wanted to find a way to articulate my process and also really passionately show people how I do what I do, because those are the questions that I get all the time. And so planning out YouTube, figuring out how to film while I'm shooting was a whole different process. And so I'm still learning how to perfect my formula when it comes to just speaking about business face to camera, or just having the different camera angles, showing what I'm doing. But I'm grading that based on feedback that I've been getting from just random viewers, and they seem to like how I go off on tangents and hum when I don't realize I'm humming, when I'm styling, because my style of explaining what I do is still me showing my personality and the love for what I do. So I'm slowly cultivating a small community, and I really like it. So that's the answer to your question for now. That may change next year. Yes.
So I love that you said I'm a product photographer, I'm always gonna have a job, and I would like to hear you speak on how you feel like this economy has affected you or anything, or if it has, because you know, being on social media, you can get in a lull and think like, man, it's hard out here for photographers. I'm trying to leave a corporate job to photography, but I'm like, on the edge, I'm like, I don't want to miss meals. So,
oh no, that is a real thing. You know, there are very slow moments for sure. And I don't believe social media. Oh, that's me. So do not believe social media, because you can really get discouraged because you see people doing all this stuff and it's like, oh, they must be making a lot of money. No. A lot of times on social media, people are posting like personal projects, things that they aren't getting paid for, and sometimes they are posting paid projects. But as far as the economy, you do have slow moments in entrepreneurship. And one thing that I forgot to mention was making sure you aren't putting all of your eggs in one basket. So a part of you understanding your skill set, another way that you can look at that is figure out how to turn your skill set of the creative into other avenues. And so beyond selling prints of your work, I'm into graphic design as well as like furniture design. Again, my background is industrial. And so I have another business that I'm starting where I want to sell more prints and more designs on furniture, even like household items like curtains and things like that. But as well as learning more about licensing. All of your old work or new work, you have the capability of getting them licensed to where you could have your printed work licensed to manufacturers, and your work can be sold in different stores. So you have to figure out different ways that where your talents can be most useful, so that you have those different passive incomes coming in, so that you're not at the mercy of missing meals just by trying to do entrepreneurship on your own. But I do recommend having definitely a safety net so that when things are slow, you're not quickly running out of money, because it's not easy to leave a steady bi-weekly paycheck. It is not. Oh, she heard first. Yes.
Sorry. With also the economy and changing a lot, and technology changing a lot, I had a question on if you use AI to kind of either help your workflow or help your editing process. Because I know right now many brands are considering using AI to kind of help create their product. I want to know if you're kind of using that more into your work now.
I'm actually not hip to the AI just yet. I mean, other than using like ChatGPT for like the business side, like if someone contacts me, I'm like, how should I respond to this email? Or like, this is the email that I wrote out, make it sound more professional. You know, other than that, I haven't necessarily used AI in any of the work that I've shot just yet. I've seen it, it looks great. I'm old school. It takes me a long time to just transition into the new, but so far it has not affected me, because people still do want that, real photography, because there's just something about the work that you put in and the personality that you just kind of imbue within your work that AI just can't really do just yet.
So I had a question. You touched on it a little bit earlier as far as the licensing. As far as your approach when you're dealing with a client, how do you, I know you said that you also work with the lawyers, so you kind of go with them as far as how you would approach a sub-licensing contract with a company, and then if you don't mind kind of just touching on a little bit, expounding on that.
Well, licensing is, there's no really one way to do it. I definitely entrust my lawyer to give me the best advice on where to go. But essentially, it's up to you to figure out how you want to price for your image. For instance, a client may want to license some of the work that they're hiring you to do. So let me break this down. So if they're hiring you to do the job, you're getting paid for that job. But if they want to use those, depending on where they want to use those images, that's a totally different price range. So let's say you're doing a job that costs around $6,000, but they also want to use these images worldwide, billboards, yada, yada, yada. They want to license it for a year. It's up to you to decide how much you want to charge per image or just for the entire group for that year. So you could start off, if the client wants 6 images, you could start off saying, okay, this is my price for the project. And then for licensing for 1 year, it's going to be $1,500. And then after that year, you pay me that additional $1,500 to continue to use these images. Or if they want to buy out, I've heard that it's 200% or 300% the cost of your initial project fee. So that's where the big bucks come in. But not everybody can afford that, but the larger companies can. So it's really up to you to figure out how much your images are worth based on where they're going to be using it, because at the end of the day, they're paying you to do a job, but you're also helping them to make money because they're going to be using these images for marketing all over, and they're going to be making their millions. So it's like, why not get my big chunk of change as well? Question?
So we learned a lot about how you started your business, your creativity, your operations, etc. Tell us a little bit more about when you knew you were ready to have an assistant and what you were looking for.
Oh, from my assistant. That's one of my best friends, Kirby. I knew I needed an assistant when I got tired of doing all the jobs. And so my initial company was Nadia Photography. And so I did that for a very long time. And along the way, I wanted to transition into more of a business because I felt like when people just saw me, they didn't really see me as a business, even though they were paying me to do the job. So I felt like I needed to take my name out of it, just kind of separate me from what I do. And once I did that, I switched up my website. It doesn't really look like a portfolio website. It looks more like a marketing website. If you guys want to check it out, it's clickpopstudio.com. But the branding, the copy, everything that I'm talking about is me talking about the services that we provide. And I'm constantly repeating our brand personality and brand values. So when people visit my website, they're like, oh, this is an agency. I need to contact them and get them to do a job. And we'll need models and we'll need all these things. And so they're already approaching me with the intention of me basically pulling a whole production together. And so once I started being approached in that way, I knew that I needed help. And so Kirby was the first assistant. She's usually my assistant / set producer. And that's someone that kind of runs the show to make sure that things are working the way they should while I'm just snapping away. And so that is when I knew that I needed an assistant, when I could no longer fulfill all of the jobs that I had been doing myself. Anything else? No? Yeah.
Do you outsource your editing at all, or do you do everything on your own?
I do both. I just started outsourcing my editing probably last year just to kind of test the waters. Also because for that job, it was pretty big. It was like 200 images. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I wanted something more consistent. I can edit to a certain extent, but if you want your work, if you want these edits to look like how Nike edits, I got to find somebody else to do that because I don't even know where to begin. And so I started that last year. I was a little nervous about it because I felt like it was a little bit inauthentic. I'm like, well, they're paying me to do the job, but I had to think about it like if you're stepping into a professional salon, let's say you're walking into Nadia's salon, 9 times out of 10, everyone that comes in won't be working with me. They'll be working with people that I hire. So if I'm presenting myself as someone that has a team, then it makes sense for me to hire people to help facilitate those jobs. So I do outsource when I don't have the time to do it myself. I see a lot of eyeballs on me. Are we good?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Ooh. Y'all don't know. Oh, do you need this?
No.
Oh, how do I turn this on? Okay.